This is a series of images that I photographed in India in 2010. What I did was I went to India ostensibly to photograph the Bodh festival, which is the full moon in May. It's the festival that it's to recognize, they call it Buddha's birthday, and it's not his birthday per se, it's when the Buddha experienced enlightenment, was born on the full moon of May, experienced enlightenment, and experienced parinirvana, all occurred on that full moon in May. So I went to photograph that as a documentation of that event. I decided to go for longer, for a total of 6 weeks. And during that time, I had a couple of different projects which I was going to do. One was to photograph monks, nuns, and novices in the temples. There are about 50 different temples. And what I was trying to do with that project was, it's a longer-term project, documenting these people who are in the temples and monasteries in and around Bodh Gaya. And what happened during that, the way this show came about is I shoot on film, I shoot on mostly on medium format cameras, and what I was going to do was choose about 5, 10 images and print them larger, as I usually do with my shows. But what happened on this show was that, or in that particular shoot, is I would go back with these images that I had of the monks or the nuns, and I would take them a copy back, and they would take it and they would reach into their robes and they would pull out this little plastic bag of maybe half a dozen pictures, and it would be a picture of them when they were in Thailand or in Tibet or with the Dalai Lama or something like that. They'd put my image in there with it, and they would fold it all back up and tuck it back into their robes. And I was quite inspired by how they found this. The object of the photo to them was of significance, was important because it was an event in their life. And whereas we're in a culture right now that is inundated with imagery, that there are, from Flickr to the computer, the internet, just images are bombarding us all the time. The sacredness of the image, we're losing in a way. And so I was impressed by how they treated this image as an object. So when I thought about it in putting this together, this show, which consists of 34 images, I was wanting to do it. I thought, well, I'll just take my medium format negatives, make contact prints from them, and then that will be the object on the wall. Because I wanted to mount them on plexi and transmount them on plexi and have them come off, it didn't really work for me to have, the image was too small, and it kind of lost it, and then it meant framing it, and I was really trying to take away from that aspect of the object and just have I wanted to keep that postcard feel, or that the small personal photograph feel in the images. So I came up with this size, which is an 8x6, and transmounted it on plexi, and removed off the wall so that it creates its own shadow, becomes an object of itself, maintains that idea that person is going to have that object, can travel with this image. And that was sort of the inspiration for keeping the miniatures, the Samatha miniatures. And I think that it's worked very well because each piece has that sense of object. The images in this show split into about 4 different categories, series. The series which I really like is the series that has the temples in it. It's a temple series. I call it Blossoms in the Pond. And the lotus blossom for Buddhists is one of the 8 auspicious symbols. And the wonderful story about the lotus is that its roots are down in the muck of the swamp, and the stalk grows up through, and as the blossom bursts through the water into the clean air, it opens up, and it's symbolic of how our lives are lived, and we sort of going through all the turmoil in our lives, and then at some point you would reach nirvana or enlightenment or something like that. And I really like that symbolism. And the temples, which, as I said, about 40 or 50 temples in Bodh Gaya, and everybody goes to the temples to see how beautiful they are and to see the sacred moments and the paintings and the drawings on the walls. And to me, I was kind of going, well, that's true, they are all those things, but they are, in a way, they are blossoms in the environment of where they are. And so all around the area there is people carrying out their daily lives, hanging their laundry, putting supermarkets up, and the temples are like the blossoms out of that. So I really was inspired by that and started to look at how could I imagine the temples as blossoms surrounded by the detritus of life that we would all be experiencing on a day-to-day life existence. So that was that series. And then the other couple of series are about just reflecting the idea of mindfulness and paying attention to what has become now called vernacular, about the day-to-day life, what's important in day-to-day life. And in our day-to-day life, as we're going about, we often forget to notice the sacred in what's right in front of us. And so whether it's the steps going somewhere or whether it's just a reflection in a window, how there is beauty in that moment. And if we take the time to reflect upon that, we will recognize the sacred in our daily lives as we go around, and how important that is.